Well, hello, and welcome once again to 25 o'clock. I'm your host, Dan Drago. Thanks for being here. It's a very special episode of 25 o'clock this week. They're all very special episodes, but this one, I'm deviating from my usual form. Yeah, bring that music down. It's going to get serious. I'm deviating from our usual form here at 25 o'clock, where I interview one guest for the duration of the show, and we get super in-depth. I'm deviating from that from this week. For those of you in Philadelphia who listen to this show, you all know that the rock club, the Legendary Dobbs, closed its doors just a few days ago. Just last Sunday was its last night in operation. And I wouldn't... Well, I mean, obviously, it's a thing that affects the music community here, and it's a thing that some of us are really bummed about. It's a thing that some people maybe aren't that bummed about. We're going to cover all of that. We're going to get to all of that here today. But really, on the heels of also just a month ago, another small venue in the city called the North Star Bar deciding not to close its doors, but not to be a music venue anymore. With those two things coming together so close, and on the heels of the newly opened smaller Fillmore Room up in Fishtown, which is a Live Nation venture, which is a large corporate venture right there. I felt like, we just had to kind of pull the stop cord on the music bus of life right there just for a second. You like that metaphor? The stop cord? I liked it too. We're going to pull the stop cord on the music bus of life and just have a moment to just talk a bit, not just about the closing of Dobbs, although that is mostly what this show today is about. And I'm going to talk to a few different people, and they're all going to give their takes on it. But to sort of talk about small venues, a music scene in general, all that stuff. Anyway, quickly, just get some house cleaning out of the way. If you're new to the program, hey, welcome. Glad you're here. Go to 25o'clockpod.com. That's where you can get all the 25 o'clock pod stuff. Old episodes in the archive. Go to the links, the friends and neighbors page, and check out all the links to everyone who's ever been on the show. Cruise around, make yourself at home, look around, pick stuff up, put it back, things like that. Welcome to the show, 25o'clockpod.com. And you can subscribe on iTunes and all the podcasts things out there, Podcast Republic, Stitcher, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so get that out of the way real quick. So what are we doing here today? We're talking to a few different people, and I'll introduce them each in turn. I put this episode together slightly quickly, not super quickly. I think this is good, and I think that we cover a lot of ground here in the episode. But obviously there were some people that I wanted to talk to that I wasn't able to talk to due to time and things like that, and I thought it was important to get this episode out this week to talk about Dobbs, to talk about small clubs, to talk about just the general thing, and this happens everywhere, where, the cool thing from when you were younger, the cool thing from your heyday goes away. And that's a thing that happens. And we can share memories about it, and we can talk about, maybe what happened or what we think happened. But in the end, you still have your memories. Those can't be taken away from you. Yeah, I wanted to open the floor, so to speak, and I have a bit of a venue right here to open the floor, so I thought I would do it. So for those of you from Philadelphia, musicians, music people, this is going to be a cool episode for you. You're going to hear from a lot of people that you might already be familiar with out there in the music world, and all talking about venues and things that you're probably already a little familiar with, just being a musician or a person of Philadelphia. For those of you not from Philadelphia who listen to this program, hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that I'm being listened to by people who don't already know me. But if you're not from Philadelphia, this is a neat, interesting little picture of the Philadelphia music scene for you, and sort of a story that probably exists in all other cities like Boston and New York and DC and Seattle and Portland and Chicago and LA and smaller cities too, of venues that were prized, that were rich with history, and eventually some of those venues disappear. It's the way of the world. It's how it goes sometimes. So anyway, let's move right along to my first guest. It seems like every few months we have to have this guy on the show. I give Jason Vertibello a call. He's been on a couple of previous episodes. He's formerly of the band Venice Sunlight. I know I opened for his band quite a few times at Dobbs, and he opened for us and things like that. But very often he's my go-to music cat when I want to talk to someone about the state of things or get someone's opinion on stuff, because he's been kicking around the scene here for quite some time. He's super involved. He's a very prolific writer and band leader. Venice Sunlight, unfortunately, is no longer, but he's hard at work right now working on the next project, which is a carefully guarded secret. We don't talk about it. But he's out there doing it, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear from him soon doing his new band. So anyway, let's talk on the phone, because again, time was of the essence, so I called all these people. Let us talk on the phone with Jason Vertibello about the closing of the Legendary Dobbs here on 25 o'clock. When was the first time you remember playing at Dobbs?
Oh man. Well, I remember back when it was the Pontiac Grill. I used to do some stuff around there, just interning for, I'm pretty sure I did some intern work back in like 04, 05 or so for a lot of venues in the area, and I would circle around Pontiac Grill. Valencia, the Philly band, it was pretty big for a while. They shot a music video there for one of their videos, and I remember being up there back when it was the Pontiac. I didn't really start hanging out at Dobbs all that much up until John Fay, of course. Him being an old friend of mine, said he was kicking up an open mic series and wanted to know if I wanted to come hang out. So I actually came out and hung out at one of the very first open mic there. So it was, that's probably the first time I remember playing there just by myself. Me and the Venice dudes played there a whole bunch of times, though, as you know. So it was always a raucous time.
Yeah, we opened for you at least once or twice.
Yeah.
Or opened. Nobody really opened for anybody there. It was just like, that's where you were on the bill.
And kind of, that was sort of the cool part about it. I mean, I know, like, so amongst my musician friends, I know Dobbs has sort of a weird reputation.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad, I mean, it's like any other venue. Everybody has mixed experiences depending on who you deal with, how the sound goes, yeah, booking of it.
Whether you brought people or not, blah, blah, blah.
And I mean, I think I mentioned something about this online in some of the discussion that was going back and forth. I mean, part of the reason that I liked playing there so much wasn't necessarily the sound or like that kind of stuff. I mean, you can certainly get better drinks at better bars in the city, even though Nina and Jess were phenomenal bartenders and they attended to your every need. You could certainly find better sound in the city. Even though Pat and Allie were both fantastic sound people that really, again, catered to your every need. But what really kind of drove it was the sense of community, which I think is such a mainstay of that particular venue, was just the fact that it was able to crush such a large amount rather, of people together and really create this sense of unity and camaraderie and community. Yeah, like all that stuff, all that wishy-washy, the mushy crap. Is sort of why I like it so much. It was just, hey, I'm going with my buddies. We're happen to be playing at this period of time, but I know that for the most part, people are going to chill, and mostly people will be cool with what you're doing. Whether it's weird ambient crap or rock and roll or metal, or it was just a nice place to just chill, have a brew, and watch good tunes. Yeah, so.
No, I've definitely talked about with other people. There was. At various points in there, a real, almost Clubhouse, almost like Cheers type of feel right there, where you knew that like on a Friday night you could walk into Dobbs, and maybe not know any of the bands on the bill, but I knew that chances are I would run into Jay from Venice Sunlight or Rachel or one of the guys in my band or something like that. Like you would see people that you knew. And it had a little bit of a Clubhouse vibe into it, but not in an exclusionary way, but just like in a, hey, if I go there, I'm gonna know someone.
And that's the best part, Again, I've played all around the city. I've played the Fire. I've played, North Star. I've played all these places. Kung Fu Necktie. I mean, it's been a privilege to play at all those places. But what was so funny about Dobbs is that, like, I mean, I just go there, and it's just, I feel like it literally is like a second home. You know, if you go in and at least one person there knows who you are, or even if they don't, they're just cool to you coming in and checking something out that you might not normally check out. I mean, I've certainly seen my fair share of crazy metal shows. I'm not nearly as much of a metalhead as I used to be, but yeah, I mean, I would swing by on a Friday because I heard Brittany Rotondo was going to be there, and she and I are chill. So I would swing by and say hi, check out a few of the bands, have a couple of drinks with Nina, you know, see how her son was doing, talk with Jess Smith for a while, you know, say hi to the owner, Nina. It was just really, really nice. It was a good experience, you know?
Yeah. No, and I think definitely at various times and places there's a place where you fit in for a period of a few years. And I know definitely for our band, Dobbs was the place for a while because there were not a ton of other small rooms. So this was before Milk Boy and before Bourbon and Branch and before a lot of these other very cool small rooms. So like if you were a local band, it was Dobbs. Like that's where you were going to put a show together.
Yeah, I mean, again, part of the appeal is that they were so flippin' flexible with us. I mean, for every show we wanted to do, they were like, you can pick the bands as long as you think they can draw reasonably well and people will drink to keep the place afloat. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we were able to do, like, shows with you in the Standing Cinema and, you know, New Connection, and I even had my old band open for Venice one time. That was a fun time. It was just one of those super relaxed kind of places, and they really made you feel valued as a musician in the Philadelphia music scene. And it really felt like the epicenter of this zeitgeist of, you know, up and coming Philly, mostly rock and roll kind of band. Felt really nice to feel like a valued musician and a contributor, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. And I mean, getting back to what you're saying about, like, a lot of people have some mixed feelings about it. And that's valid because it's not a person. It's a for-profit business. So obviously people are going to have feelings about it one way or the other. But the one thing that I feel about, and even my conflicting feelings, because I had a lot of mixed feelings about that place. Even when I was enjoying the hell out of myself playing, we would, you know, play great shows. We'd all hang out together and play there. From a bigger picture scene, I would see the way that place ran and see the way that maybe other places ran and be like, well, what's going on over there? But that's even neither here nor there either. As I've told people as I'm doing this is neither a nostalgia trip nor a bitch fest. Like,
right. I mean,
I'm not here to hold the place up as a beautiful, wonderful, shining light of everything awesome. However, I'm not here for us to all kick it while it's down. So, you know.
No, I understand, and you know, and you know me well enough by now to know that I'm a bit of a realist when it comes to this kind of stuff. I believe in this. I believe in fostering a sense of community, as I just talked about, all the other good stuff like that. But, you know, and I mentioned something like this, you know, earlier today as we were talking about this on our online soapboxes. I was just saying something like, you know what, the four walls are gone, but the community's still there.
Well,
wherever it ends up, you know, like that's what matters, right? Like the idea that we can still congregate somewhere and find really good music and really good friends to enjoy it with, that inspire each other and challenge each other and really push each other to make Philadelphia a fantastic place to create and consume music.
And there were definitely periods where it seemed like the fun was more there than others, but
oh yeah, and again, I'm not like, you know, I'm not whitewashing anything. You know, I there were certainly points where I was kind of scratching my head at certain business decisions that were made, but it's not my business. What the hell do I know? You know, but you know, like it certainly begs questions like, what can we do? And I think, you know, they're having that discussion at Connie's about this kind of thing.
Yeah,
like what can you do? Like, how can you remain solvent? How can you book continuously cool acts that are kind of up and coming? How do you be that, you know, Johnny Brenda's who's doing really well, ostensibly, you know what I mean? Or Bourbon and Branch or Milk Boy, who were able to open up in the past 5 years and still remain relevant.
Yeah.
Rather than going the way of North Star, which, I mean, there were very few like indie major bands that I had heard playing there. Like, I mean, I haven't heard of any name bands playing there since, like, God, 09, 2010, something like that.
Well, it's kind of like the demise of the Khyber, too, where for the last year or two that the Khyber was booking shows, I can't say I went there, where there was a period in probably 04, 05, or 06 where I was there once a month. Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of great bands there. I mean, it was back when I was interning, that was one of the places that I held, I was an intern helping to book and promote these shows, was over at the Khyber. And I remember it being, extremely difficult for a lot of other bands to get booked there just because it was such a hot spot. And it was, and it's interesting. I mean, I think what was interesting about Dobbs, and again, we can kind of reflect as a bit of a weird eulogy, if you will.
That is what this is. This is like a...
Right? What happened was that, like, I would see all these, these booking ads and such for, like, okay, we're looking to book these fusion bands, we're looking to book these hip-hop bands, we're looking to book these, these metal bands. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with variety at all. I just think that there was a bit of an identity crisis there.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, it's hard if you can't define yourself in the market, especially with South Street shifting as much as it has.
Oh, yeah.
I used to joke that every time I went there was a new store on the block. Like, right, oh, that shut down, there's a new one there? Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not to take away from it. Dobbs, it was obviously an institution extremely valuable to the progression of the Philadelphia music scene in the past 30 or whatever years. But it was just it's hard to see it go. But I can't think of a time where it would have been more apropos for it to probably kind of fade away. And I hope somebody takes it and runs with it. But it's difficult when you have this identity crisis and you're kind of leaning on those past glories to try and propel your reputation upward.
Every article that's been written about it in the last couple of days, and just every article that's ever written about Dobbs, from the 900 times that we've seen it close and reopen in our time here, they always mention, like, in 1991 or whenever, Nirvana played here. And at some point, I look up, I'm like, that was 25 fucking years ago at this point.
Well, it's like...
You got to stop dining out on the fact that, like, Nirvana played here, Pearl Jam played here, Green Day played here, Soundgarden played here, back when nobody gave a shit who any of those bands were either. I think there's something incredibly schizophrenic about South Street in Philadelphia, too, where... It's a massive influx on the weekend and during the week and during the summer of a whole lot of a demographic with a lot of dispensable income. You got a lot of young people with jingle in their wallet who are I just tried to make up a thing and I sounded like a 70-year-old man right there. There's kids with a jingle in their wallet.
Damn kids.
But I mean,
kids in their digital wallets.
Digital wallets. But I mean, like, you have this massive influx of young people with more money than sense.
Right.
And I feel like that the common denominator of South Street has, not that it was ever a lofty, like, highbrow place, but I feel like it just drops every year, and that could just be me getting older and having less and less tolerance for that kind of shit. But I don't know.
No, but it's I was reading some stuff about that. You know what I mean? And I've certainly seen it. I lived on South Street for a couple of years. Like, I lived right off of 5th and Lombard by that 812.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, I got to see firsthand the kind of sort of change that was going on there. I worked at one of the places off South Street. It used to be Chef's Market, now it's Chef's Table. But that shifted dynamically. Now they just do catering. You know what I mean? Now it's like a bunch of, and I understand that it's the nature, especially of, cities that are beset by gentrification and sort of, massive relocation of different demographics to different areas. I mean, that's cities in general. I understand that. Tastes change and, rent goes up and down and everywhere. I mean, it's, again, these are business decisions that I can't hope to wrap my head around, and it's not my business to know, but it makes for an interesting conversation to talk about if you're looking to start a venue in Philadelphia or maintain the one that you have, what can you do both from a business perspective and also from just an artistic perspective, booking the right talent, finding the right artists that are up and coming, having good talent buyers, getting the right indie major names and providing incentives for them to play there. Getting the patrons to come out, which is obviously the hardest part. It's very, very difficult in today's market to get people to come out and see shows. I mean,
there's 900 other ways for you to get music. That, like, why would I go to a place?
And it's a changing paradigm, and it's one of those things where you have so many bands trying to do something different that everybody starts sounding the same and looking the same. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of the funnier things that I posted. I remember one of the memories that we had was when we played Dobbs, and we actually had a bubble machine. That was our gimmick. You know what I mean? Like, that was just a fun thing. And people still, like, I bring it up and people still laugh about it because we got in trouble for doing that. So apparently, like, they makes the floor slippery. I didn't really think this all the way through. But it was a really good time, and it was a fun gimmick, and that's how we were sort of remembered, was this funny whiskey rock sort of sardonic, rock and roll band,
with a bubble machine.
With a bubble machine, but that sort of goofball, screwball attitude was sort of how we built our identity and how I decided to kind of move things going forward. From that aspect of just fuck it, I'm just gonna enjoy it and have fun. And Dobbs was a big part of me helping to define that attitude, even though I did get yelled at for that later. But
but they were a place that was going to at least let you try some stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. It's I could. Well, the coolest part about Dobbs, and what's such a shame, is I got this new project I'm working on, and we were talking like, hey, do you think that those cats over at the open mic, you think John would be cool with us trying out some stuff? And I was like, dude, I mean, it's such a good community there that like. I mean, that's where I, workshop all the new stuff that I'm working on. That's where all the new Venice stuff. I would play it out and be like, yeah, what do you guys think of it? You know what I mean? Is it weird? Is it too off what we normally do? And, obviously, we're artists. We do what we want pretty much. But it's good to hear the feedback, and it's always honest, sincere feedback. It's not necessarily, you won't play the largest crowds in the world, but most of them won't be staring at their phones, which is the interesting thing.
It reminds me of time of like the smaller size like comedy club rooms and stuff like that, where during the week you would go to work out, and on the weekends you would roll in, and that's when people were really kind of like putting their best foot forward, when people were really like bringing out like the best material that they had, because you knew that you were in front of a bigger audience.
Totally. Oh, I mean, you have to bring your A game because you've been on tour. You know how it is trying to book a Friday, Saturday night show somewhere where you're not the natural draw. Like it's. If I'm going to Philly, if I'm going outside of Philly rather, and I'm trying to book a Friday, Saturday night show, I better have a good draw in that city plus A-game material. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how you get there. But it's a very difficult situation for artists to be in, and as such, it's difficult even for the venues to find the right acts. And again, I can't say enough. I don't have the answers for that. I don't think I know better than anybody. But it's just an observation, sort of like, well, I mean, if I see a bunch of different bands of varying, widespread, all over the place genres, it becomes difficult to identify sort of what you want to be as a venue, let alone as a bar that maybe or maybe doesn't serve food. Like it's weird.
No,
it's weird.
It's true. It's true, and I think as the music landscape changes, as cities change, as neighborhoods change, and places that used to be about one thing suddenly become about something else. You're working against that before you even bring in the whole idea of like bands that draw or bands that don't draw. Like you've got all these things that you're kind of up against before you even start considering the talent that I don't know. There's sometimes I'm amazed that any venue stays around for longer than 2 years. Like it's
mind bending to me, especially like because Dobbs was like my Wednesday spot every week. You know what I mean? And I mean like and for all the times that I would go, I'd say probably, I don't know, 20% of the time I would see like a lot of people there on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like just like 80% of the time was like either bone dry, nobody there, just me, Nina, Pat, and John, or like, it would be up to maybe like 50 people, maybe 100, and that's fine. But I'm thinking like, I mean, man, is this how you operate like every day? Like that's gotta be hard. You have bartenders to pay, you have overhead, maintenance, sound people to pay, like all this stuff, but John has to get paid for stuff, open jams for other stuff. I mean, there's so much that goes into this stuff that people don't realize. Even again, like you said, even before you do talent buying. So it's a very, very, very difficult situation. And it's heartbreaking to see it go. I just think as artists, we're meant to adapt to changing climates, and the strong ones and the talented ones find the best way to do that, very much like venues. So it's awful to see it go. I mean, it's heartbreaking. Again, that was my almost every week spot for a very long time, and it's tough, man. It's a tough loss.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Jay.
No problem, man. I appreciate you taking the time to talk.
Oh man, thanks. big thanks to Jay right there for talking with me. He has a lot of memories, and often when I think of the Legendary Dobbs, Jay Vertebello is one of the first people I think of as well. So thanks, Jay, for talking with us. Moving on, we're going to talk to another gentleman by the name of Ron Bauman. You might know Ron as the manager of Connie's Rick Rack, which is a similar-sized club with a similar-sized audience, and a lot of the same bands and people who would work out of Legendary Dobbs would also play down at Connie's Rick Rack down in South Philly in the Italian Market neighborhood. Ron, as I said, runs Connie's Rick Rack. He was in a band called Discount Heroes. He's a promoter, and he's just an awesome, all-around awesome dude and friend to all musicians below South Street. And above South Street as well. And as I said, the Rick Rack is the same size and really was kind of like if you were to have a sister club to the Legendary Dobbs in the last handful of years, it would definitely be Connie's Rick Rack. So I definitely wanted to reach out to Ron and hear not only his thoughts about the closing at Dobbs, but what he thought that might mean for them at Connie's Rick Rack, operating a very, very similar size and style of business. So let's give Ron a call here real quick on 25 o'clock. So as pretty much one of the only other venues down, in South Street or below, what are you guys thinking about all this over at Connie's?
Well, it's always sad to see a fellow music venue decide to call it quits. I think it says something about where the scene is right now, and I think it also says something about how hard it is to be in this business.
Yeah,
it's not easy for us. It's a struggle every day to on the business side of things. So I can only imagine and be sympathetic to what type of pressure and how much stress that they were under, especially in that area. It's so much more of an expensive area than what we're in.
Yeah, where the real estate values seem to just conflate every year, making it even harder on top of whatever you say to, the devaluation of live music or things like that, all the other things that are happening on an artistic side there's the dollars and cents side of if you're renting a property on South Street, like that's going to cost more money each and every year.
Yeah. And we not that it's cheap in the Italian market, and I'm sure, we're obviously going to be going through.
Oh, you guys are definitely going through some stuff right now. Yeah.
We're going to be going through our redevelopment and revitalization down there. So of course our property values are going to go up. That remains to be seen how that gets passed along to the business owners, because people rent. Not everybody owns the building that they operate their businesses in. And that wasn't the case there at Dobbs either. So I can only imagine what their rent was and how expensive it must have been and what their overhead must have been. I think about it looking at the numbers we do every day. I can't even imagine what kind of nut they got to cover.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
What they got to do every day and every week. I mean, it's a business. I mean, we have a higher purpose. Connie's Rick Rack. It ain't fucking making money over there, let me tell you.
Yeah.
We ain't doing that. Nobody's retired off the profits of Connie's Rick Rack. Nobody's paying their bills off the profits of Connie's Rick Rack. The people that work there, as far as the owners go and the partners go, I mean, the people that work there, they get paid, obviously.
Yeah.
Bartenders make their money. The sound people, the door people make their money. The bands, as much as we can give them.
Yeah.
We're treading water for the most part.
You guys are doing
good.
It's
a labor of love. It's a high
definitely. Yeah. And you guys have always done great work down there. And I've always felt that like you and Dobbs to be like, especially like in the heyday of a few years ago, where it seemed like your band, my band, all our friends' bands just had this community of a place to go and play. We knew we could put a show together. We knew that we could pick our bills when we were up there within reason. I think one of the first times I played Dobbs was opening for you guys at your
in the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the videos I actually posted like all the songs from our CD release show there that you guys opened up for us on. Yeah, it was a great night. I mean, at that time, they were had come out of the Pontiac Grill.
Yeah.
Period where then it was closed for a little while after being Pontiac Grill, and then it reopened as the Legendary Dobbs. And, of course, everybody loves what's new.
Yeah.
And it was a new entity on the scene. It did a good job of, from a branding and marketing and promotion standpoint of leveraging their history. They certainly have, what you think would be an ideal location.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the hot spot. We were all going there. We had our
definitely.
own venue. We did our CD release party over there. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, coupled with the fact that we had just come off doing shows for like 14 straight months, like mostly at the Rec Rack. We were like, hey, let's go try someplace new.
Why don't we go somewhere where we don't have to clean up afterwards?
I never really did much there.
Well,
I make the mess now.
Well, what do you think? This brings on a whole new series of questions. This is, of course, a complicated issue in any city and anywhere you go to. But it seems like a lot of the chatter that I'm seeing out there right now, some people want to put the blame a lot on the audience and say, like, well, you're not coming out, so that's why places like this fold. And there is a kernel of truth in that. When people stop coming out, obviously venues suffer because no people equals no money, and no money for the bands, no money for the venue. But I think it's more complicated than that, and I'm curious what you guys think as a small venue down there too. Like you can't entirely put it all at the foot of the audience not coming out.
Certainly not. I mean, I think that if anything, I see why people would think that. I don't want to be just taking a counterpoint for the sake of taking a counterpoint, but
well, like I said, there is an element of truth in that. Definitely, if people don't come, then that is why a business fails. But a business needs to make itself attractive for people to come. And I think the bands have a lot to do that too. The way they promote, the way that venues and bands work together to help each other, rather than it being at times this contentious relationship that you and I have both, dealt with as bands, as well as the other things that we do.
Yeah, I agree with all that. There's definitely communication is definitely the biggest part, and coordinated promotion, and managing expectations and assigning roles and deciding, who's taking the lead role on this, who's taking the lead role on that. Identifying who's the promoter has always been a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Either it's going to be somebody in one of the bands who decided to book the show and wanted to book out the whole night. They're the one who's going to, they book the lineup. They're communicating with the bands. They're going to get the Facebook event page up. They're going to do the flyer. They're going to take that lead role of promoter. Some bands aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's on the venue. Sometimes it's on an outside promoter, whether it's, Forward Productions or, Gravity Given or, DVT or Bonfire or R5, and somebody else is a promoter. Now, you get as big as Bonfire or R5, now you're actually getting a stake in the venue. You're not just an outside entity.
Yeah.
But, all that said, blaming it on, the audience and the scene itself, that's a whole... I think that's a whole other topic of conversation.
Yeah.
It's the scene itself, and how does the scene support itself, and how does it sustain itself?
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most vibrant scenes in the city right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think people are going out. I think everybody goes out and sees. It's live music is almost, it's like everywhere. I think everybody knows somebody in a band. Everybody has their favorite venue that they go to. I don't think many people. Yeah, I guess they do. I don't know. It's maybe just the world I live in, but it just feels like people are looking for more. There's a lot of options for their entertainment dollar.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go and sit in a corner bar or go to Chickies and Pete's. There's people that like to do that, but, this is just another option for your entertainment dollar. So if you want to compete for that, then you have to give them something of value.
Yeah.
And people have to know about it. So... I think there's, conversely, I also think it's most alcohol selling establishments, business, like those types of businesses, they inherently feel like live music is the cure-all to their woes. It's like,
which couldn't be farther from the truth. Yeah, it couldn't be farther from the truth.
How are we going to get more people? We're not making any money. Everybody's got the best idea for a bar.
Yeah.
Somebody told me once. Until 6 months later when their buddies stopped coming in and they're like scratching their heads like, what are we going to do? It's like, let's throw some live music in the corner.
Oh, God. Let's throw some live music in the corner. Exactly.
And, a wise man, Brian Dilworth from Bonfire, his friends. And, we were talking one day about it and he said that. And, there's a lot to be said about that. And, so it's, we're talking about, I've been having this conversation a lot with people, as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot over the last, not just over the last 24 to 48 hours, but I mean, this has been ongoing for as long as I've been in this, at least as long as I've been more heavily invested in Connie's Riffraff.
Yeah.
And to the point now that I'm a partner there, and it's like I'm dedicating myself to the scene here and like supporting what's going on around here. But it's like a living, breathing organism. It's this economic, it's supply and demand. It's economics.
Yeah.
Everybody's playing music, and everybody wants music. So there's all this music. It's always going to go up and down. And everything will tend to balance itself out. Like right now, part of the reason why Dobbs couldn't survive is because there wasn't enough people going to the shows. Now you could say maybe they weren't putting the right shows together. Maybe and I'm not saying that that's the case. I had my own opinion on what exactly was really the bigger part of their problem there.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But now they're going to North Star and Dobbs closing is now shrinking some of the distribution channels. So now, that's going to have an effect on the balance, equilibrium between the supply and demand of music and, where it's coming from and who's going out to see it.
Yeah. So,
you get into the big venues too. I mean, the Fillmore, and now they're going to compete on a different level.
Yeah.
But they're also trying, I look at something like that and it's like, you have to have all the goddamn business.
Yeah.
You're already going to be getting,
yeah.
All these, you're going to be getting Kings of Leon and, you're going to be getting, whatever great bands that are like up and coming through, selling 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tickets to a show. Do you have to have another club in there?
Do you have to have a 400-man venue? You're just like, come on, leave that to the rest of us. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, come on. So, that I don't care about that place. I'm not, I really don't focus a lot on other venues.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the other problems that you see with some venues is that they're so outwardly focused on what's going on at other venues.
Yeah.
Just focus on cleaning up your own backyard.
Yeah.
Do the best you can with what you got and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, yeah. No, precisely.
Look, there's all these venues popping up because there's all these people that are willing to play music and everybody thinks they're going to make money. And then it doesn't happen and then they go away. So,
no,
it's just a cycle. They're new, other ones will close and new ones will pop up.
Yeah. I listed, and I took to Twitter too, and some people thought I was being snarky, but I wasn't. I was actually trying to be supportive, where I took to Twitter and put out like a 3 or 4 post list of just like, this is a list of all the 200 capacity venues still existing in Philadelphia, which was number one to show people that there are a heck of a lot of places, and also point people in the direction and just be like, well, look, these are other places too that we can see, music with kind of the same sort of vibe and bands at the same kind of level. I think Bourbon and Branch up on Fairmount is doing an amazing job. I think they have a phenomenal venue.
Yeah, they're definitely doing something right. I mean,
neighborhood's part of it, and certain trends and stuff like that. Again, sometimes it's a case of right place, right time, but we all know that that's not a long-term sustainable thing. But still, like I enjoy seeing shows out there.
Yeah, I think it does what it does really well.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen shows there. I mean, they're a small venue. They're, not even as big as Connie's Riffraff.
No, they're maybe 100 up in that upstairs room, maybe.
Right. So they're optimally positioned to support the local music scene.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the relationships in this scene too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget about this is the business of show at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And people are out there. They're trying to make something happen. They're trying to do something for themselves. They're trying to create art and, get it out in front of the world. And that's important to them. And people that can enable that and facilitate that become very important to you.
Yeah.
So you have a responsibility not to be a dick.
Yeah, it's true.
To these people. And the people that do it well, and I don't really know them really well over Bourbon Branch, but everybody I've talked to, says, man, they're nice guys. They get it, Yeah. Whoever's doing the booking over there, and I don't know, I think it's Chris. I don't really know him that well.
Yeah.
I know his name, but, it comes down to relationships and how you treat people. So, that has a lot to do with it, too.
No, definitely.
And that's why I think they're doing well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to any sustainable business. I mean, money is a part of it. You got to get people in the door. You got to get bands who can draw. All those wheels got to be turning. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, if people aren't happy working with each other, I mean, like, this is a lot of us in bands. It's not what we do for a living. It's what we do for fun. And if it's not fun to work with a certain venue, then we're not going to work with them anymore. And that can be what happens. Not to put it on such a downer like that, but I mean, there is choice on both sides. Venues can choose not to book bands, and bands can choose not to engage certain venues.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that certainly happens, and there's a million reasons why that happens.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
I mean, it's people, they develop loyalties, and I kind of get that. I respect it.
Yeah.
So if you have, but I mean, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's necessary. It never seems to really work in our favor, where people will only play shows at the Rick Rack.
Well, yeah. Well, no, and it's good that everyone gets a chance to go all over and do whatever and spread their thing, and then maybe when they come back, people follow them back down to the Rick Rack, or people would have followed them to a place like Dobbs or something like that.
Look, you just want to play new places when you're in a band. You don't want to keep playing the same place over and over. Listen, we had a venue. I was in the Discount Heroes. Frankie and Joe. They started the Rick Rack, and they were the Discount Heroes, and we would go play shows all over the place.
Yeah.
You can't just play the same place all the time.
Yeah.
Whether you own the place or not.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Ron, thanks so much for talking, man.
It was my pleasure.
All right. Thanks again to Ron Bauman from Connie's Rick Rack for talking with us here on 25 o'clock. Moving along too, we're going to get out of Philadelphia real briefly down, take a big trip, all 30 minutes of it, down to Wilmington, Delaware, where we talked to Jeremy Hebel, who's one of the founders and owner-operators of Gebel Music Productions, which is a promotion and concert company down in Wilmington. They've been kicking around for, it's got to be like 5 years, maybe even 6 years at this point. I've done work with them before. I've always had a lot of respect for Jeremy and his partner Gail for just putting on great shows and being really great promoters and really great music business people that you would actually want to deal with. And Jeremy played a lot of shows at Dobbs, backing up a lot of people. He's a really great drummer. And as a promoter down in Wilmington, I really wanted to know his perspective, because a lot of the bands down in Wilmington who kind of make up what's been the Wilmington scene over the last few years do come up to Philadelphia quite often, and Dobbs was one of the places that a lot of them played. I definitely played shows with a lot of Wilmington bands there, and saw a lot of Wilmington bands and Delaware area bands up at Legendary Dobbs. So let's talk to Jeremy Hebel real quick here. Well, no, not real quick. We're going to let him talk. I don't want to rush him. Let's talk to Jeremy Hebel here on 25 o'clock. I don't know why I associate with you there, but I've definitely seen you play there, backing up people over the last couple of years. But also because you and Gail are music promoters of kind of bands at the same level, just in our sister city. So I'm kind of just curious what you guys think about it being just, half hour down the road from us, and kind of looking at Philly as like, the big brother, big sister city of music, and kind of seeing what we've been going through over the last couple of months with venues closing and things like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, first of all, I mean, we feel it, I mean, we are, like you said, it's so close that, I mean, as time has been going on, we almost feel like Philly and Wilmington are the same scene.
Yeah.
As not even as much as two different scenes. Like, it just, we feel the same thing. A lot of the bands that are in Wilmington are breaking up. I mean, not breaking up, but in Wilmington that are trying to break out of Wilmington. I mean, Dobbs is a very welcoming place.
Yeah.
And, I mean, especially with the open mic night that John was running on every Wednesday night. I mean, he just, definitely the impact is felt here. You know what I mean? For sure. Not even so much just in like, oh, look what's happening in Philly, but it's look what's happening here as well. And it's really. It's nice to see the outpouring, of love that so many people are posting and so many people are sharing it, and all these people are relaying memories and all that stuff. But at the same time, I was talking to Gail about this earlier, and we're wondering, we would love to see, some of the statistics of how many of these people that are commenting and sharing that how frequently did they actually go out?
Yeah.
How frequently were they in that place? You know what I mean? That's because that's really ultimately what venues need, is they need And they need their regulars, and they need their people that, they may go out once in a blue moon, but they need people that are going to be, the ones that are going out every Wednesday, the open mic night and that kind of stuff. And there's just nowhere near enough people. And I mean, it's just really interesting, phenomenon that we're seeing lately. Everybody that, when a venue says, "Oh, we're closing," that's when all these people that hadn't been there in years come forth and are like, "No, how is that going? Why is that happening?" And it's just like, well, you haven't been in a long time.
I said the same thing when the North Star went down too, or when the North Star. I mean, the North Star's not closing; they're just deciding not to be a music venue anymore.
Right.
Which, I mean, as a side note, is a cry and shame as well, because that was one of the more unique rooms.
That's a great room.
In Philadelphia. Its biggest attraction was its location. But you raised some really interesting points about, I thought the same thing too, as I saw people being like, "Oh, that place, I haven't been there in forever and I'm sad to see it go."
Like, well, that's the problem.
And part of me does say that, that is the problem. Like, like, where were you? But I mean, some of us age out a little bit. Like,
for sure.
I certainly did.
Absolutely.
I stopped being in bands and...
Yeah, no, and Gail and I, we're always out, and we're always happy. This is what we do. And, we definitely respect that. When we have a rare night off, trust me, the last thing we want to do is go out and see music for sure. Honestly, and I mean, but still, it's just really, I'd love to see some data around that.
Yeah,
like just the percentage of people that were like, crying out in outrage.
I think a lot of people
just time you were there.
They think about that. They think about the memories too, and that's a big aspect of, especially a place like Dobbs. It's been around for like 40 years at this point.
Oh yeah, I know, man. It's
under
crazy.
various
really
incarnations.
Cool. It's definitely cool to see some of the comments of people that had been playing there from the very beginning.
Yeah,
and, still connected in some way. And this is the thing with social media, as well. It's just this interesting phenomenon that allows everybody to have a voice and contribute to the conversation. And whereas had this happened, 20 years ago, it would have come out in a newspaper and you would have talked about it with your friends, but you might not have really, nobody would have seen that there's this big public outcry of people that, were really upset about this. And,
people definitely wouldn't be making podcasts about it, I'll tell you that much.
Right, for sure. But I mean, it's definitely a sad situation anytime a venue that embraces original music and embraces bands that are, hardworking and trying to build fan bases, go by the wayside, because there's just more and more, there's plenty of venues that are out there for established bands already, but, it's hard for people to find places to play. And, so that's definitely a blow. It's a blow that when I said my post, I mean, I was very serious about, my sincere condolences about that. It really sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about, it's just the thing about time and age, that eventually all the things that were around when you were younger, all the things that were around when you were active, like, will eventually go away. Like, that's just, it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Dobbs goes and, something comes in its place. Maybe not in its exact location, because I felt like when Dobbs kind of went back up as Legendary Dobbs, like after it was done being the Pontiac for like the 5th time or whatever. And I used to play that upstairs Red Room at the Pontiac too with James. That was some of our first gigs and some of our first bands in Philadelphia. Sure. So for me, it's not even the name; it's just the whole the building itself. Yeah,
right. It's that actual building, right? Absolutely.
I feel like Dobbs kind of took up the mantle for Doc Watson's, which was a place that catered to a similar crowd, had similar type of bands and things like that, and had some of the same bookers and promoters too. So, to everything turn.
Well, it definitely does create. It creates a gap that I hope somebody does step in and fill. And that is. That's a positive way to look at it, is like, well, here's the next chapter and let's see what's going to come, because, there's a lot of bands that want to play. There's a lot of people that want to support a business like that. And it's very obvious. And so, I mean, it's there's something there for sure. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone, if someone stepped forward and purchased it.
Yeah.
And, opened it as another venue because of the history, especially the history. And, some of the bands that have played on that stage. I mean, it's pretty amazing to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gail just made a very good point. And with the opening of Fillmore, Live Nation is a pretty monstrous entity to have to compete against in that market.
The only other venue left on South Street now, with the exception of, I guess, Second Street Lounge, which is still putting on some live music upstairs. Right. The only other venue on South Street is TLA, Fillmore at the TLA, or whatever they rebranded it as a couple years ago.
Right, which is it's completely Live Nation.
Yeah, no, and as the corporate influence increases, for me, to bring it to the Fillmore real quick, the one that they just opened in Fishtown, I don't mind. It's funny. I don't mind if a corporate entity builds like another 1,000-person venue, because I'm just like, yeah, well, you kind of have to have corporate money to do something like that. But when they open these little 300 or 400-person venues, I'm just like, I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, let someone else do that.
And the Fillmore is that as well. They've got the smaller room that is, I think, a 300 capacity room.
For me,
and you're right. It's direct competition for the World Cafe Lives and for the smaller.
For me, like when a guy like Sean Agnew and R5 partners up and opens a Boot and Saddle and takes over the booking at Johnny Brenda's or Kung Fu Necktie, that's a completely different thing to me. I'm like, you're Philly people. You've cut your teeth on DIY shows and Philly music and national music for years.
Absolutely. But when these corporations come in and it's just a dollar and cents business. It's just, you're right. I agree with you. There's a little bit of a blow in the stomach anytime they're competing, with the locals. And, there's also other, there's other implications that come in, like the unionization and all these other issues that really, there's serious, aside from just the fact that they can outspend any other venue, there's those other issues that
rules and regulations
come along with it. Yeah, exactly.
Which makes it hard for a small venue to...
Makes it very difficult to operate. Yeah,
no, I totally get that. And while I'm definitely, the whole... To wax on unions for a second, is that their whole point is to keep people from getting exploited, keep the workers from getting exploited, as well as the musicians. On the other hand, you look at a small venue and be like, "What? How can a 200-seater room, independently owned, possibly play ball at that level?"
Yeah, and that's the downside of unions is that since they are member fee driven. Sometimes there isn't as much thought into what is this going to do to the business? And that's the downside of it for sure.
Yeah,
and
that's a whole.
I have no idea. Right, Gail and I have been speculating about what's been happening at Dobbs, and it's probably a multitude of things, I guess. But I mean, even South Street itself, I've just really been seeing a decline in the people that are spending their time on South Street over the last few years.
Yeah,
and whereas I think it was a kind of family destination, touristy kind of thing for a while, it's definitely kind of been going in a different direction. That I think,
I can never put my finger on the vibe of that stretch of blocks right there. Sometimes there's been certain couple little periods of years. I feel like I've been in Philadelphia long enough now where I can kind of break it down into little eras, but there were years where it was more of an artist's haven, and then there were years where it was more of a frat haven, and then there were years where it's more of a tourist haven. And right now I don't know what it is, and maybe again it's age or whatever, but I kind of don't care.
I know. I feel you. Absolutely. I mean, for me, I know it's no matter what time period I went, it is always a parking nightmare. That's for sure. And it's funny. I've taken to promoting shows in Wilmington now as like, hey, you're going to be able to come into Wilmington and see this show for less than you're having to pay to park if you're going to show a show in Philly. And that's just like it's the God's honest truth. I mean, it really is. I look at Rock Circus as a $20 ticket, and it's just like I have paid $20 to go and park before getting to the show in Philly. So.
I can't remember the last time you could claim to have seen that many bands for like $20.
Yeah, right. Well, I know that I've also probably got more parking tickets on South Street than anywhere else I've ever tried parking in Philly. That's for sure. They seem to be.
It's all the joys and not so joys of just trying to run any small business, particularly a small music venue in a city like that's. I think I've already used the word dogfight for that when I was talking to someone else, but it's a dogfight to really try and do that. No implications of actual dogfighting happening at all, but
sure, no, I agree. Absolutely. No, but you're right. I mean, it really, it's just I don't know. I mean, Gail and I, it's interesting because when we started this business and before we even knew exactly what we wanted to do, aside that we knew that we wanted to put on shows, I mean, pretty much everybody was saying, oh, you guys are going to start a venue, you guys start venue. And we credit that decision of not doing that is the reason we're in business.
Oh gosh, God, I can't imagine you guys being able to do what you do and offer the opportunities in the way that you guys were able to do it if you had started a venue. No knock on people who have started venues, but you guys operate in a way with a certain level of freedom. And you had Wilmington, which was kind of a blank slate playground right there to play in. So I think it's a combination of time, opportunity, luck, and you guys just being incredibly hard workers who are incredibly devoted to, at its core, music.
Yeah, we've also been able to, I think, treat musicians how we set out to be able to treat musicians, I think, for that reason. And I think that when you operate a venue and you are literally having to, pay attention to your bottom line to be able to keep your doors open, it, like you said, it doesn't allow you those freedoms. It doesn't allow you to be able to say, hey, you know what? It was a crappy night, but here's some gas money. Like, you can't do that. You really can't do that. And we felt like that was something that was really important to us. And so we probably would not have been in business had we opened up the venue when we started. We probably would have gone down spectacularly. And we are at this point. I've already had at least one phone call of someone being like, "Dude, you guys should totally get Dobbs and do it." And take it over.
Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, dude, trust me, it's just not the thing that we're going to be doing.
I thought that too. I thought like, oh man, I could find some people, and I'm like, not in a million years. Like,
oh yeah, a lot of people. I mean, I noticed a lot of people that were like, oh, we need to all band together and get it, and it's just like, there's obviously a real passion for people to continue having these opportunities to see, up and coming bands and bands that are still trying to, to pull together fan bases and just put on great shows. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it's just, it does leave a gap that I'm sure, people will step forward to fill, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thanks so much for talking.
My pleasure, man. Absolutely. All right. It was great catching up with you, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks so much, Jeremy Hebel from Gebel Music Productions. Is a really thoughtful guy, and he and Gail do excellent work down in Wilmington, and we're going to see more of them up in Philadelphia. And they're going to be on the show pretty soon too. I've been wanting to talk to them both about everything they've done in Wilmington for quite some time. So there's a little teaser right there before we move on. So anyway, I got one more guest that I'm going to talk to, and this guy, he's been on the show before too, and he's come up very often in conversation with other musicians that I have on the program. The guy's name is James Hearn, and I've been playing, well, I don't play music with him anymore, but at a time I played music with him since I was a teenager. He and I are both from the same small town of Western New York. We moved to Philadelphia many years ago and started many an incarnation of a band together. James doesn't live in Philly anymore. He lives up in the Hudson Valley region of New York, and he's doing his thing up there, playing shows, making records, doing his thing. And whenever I think of playing shows, when I think of the Legendary Dobbs and I think of all the shows I played, they're the other first person I really think of is James Hearn, because he and I played a lot of music together through a large part of our lives. He was the frontman of The Way Home and the Sober Cats. Like I said, we played a lot of shows together. I got a lot of memories of Dobbs with him. And he, in our conversation, he definitely talks about the great things about Dobbs, things he loves about them, but he definitely talks about some of the more not so good aspects of Dobbs in its waning years. And while I'm not trying to make this an all-happy show, I'm definitely not trying to make this a bitch session show either. But I think every point he makes is valid and not unfair at all. It's just a bit of a disclaimer right here. I know a venue just closed and a lot of people are very sad, and I don't want people to get the idea that anyone is dancing on anything's grave at all. I think we're having some very real conversations here on this show about the closing of a venue, but it's not just closing of one venue. It's the implications amongst a music community in a much larger way than just the closing of one particular, stage, one particular venue. Anyway, I digress. You're going to hear us talk. So let's get on the horn with James Hearn here on 25 O'Clock.
What I think is interesting is at least in the I lived in Philly, I'm pretty sure that it was like closed Pontiac, closed Pontiac, closed Pontiac, closed Dobbs, and I closed again.
It's a rich life that it had right there.
It's not the name that's the problem. It's the ownership and whatever else happens.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is I don't know if you can put it all in the ownership. I just think it's hard to run a small venue. And most of the people who want to get into the small venue game are, like, let's face it, not necessarily getting into it for the best of intentions. So,
yeah,
you're kind of forced to deal with, as an artist, you're forced to deal with that. But yeah, I mean, we played the Pontiac probably in the last year that it was the Pontiac for the last time. That's the strange sentence right there.
I think it was one more Pontiac after that. There was a gap for a while because the Sober Cats never played there.
No. What was that, like 05, 06 or something? It was probably like 05 or something when we played there.
Yeah, 05, 06, something like that.
I remember that being a good show. That was upstairs. That was the upstairs room. It was that long, narrow, red death room.
Yeah, because the downstairs didn't, and there was windows over the street.
Yeah.
And I recall one of the games we did there was like the weekend before the weekend that had St. Patrick's Day. We're freaking out over us. I was just like, it's next weekend. Yeah. Like, it's a weekend date. You can go drinking that weekend.
Yeah.
But I recall a lot of stage banter about the drunks on the street.
I think that was my first year that I ever realized that, like, this city celebrates St. Patrick's Day for like a solid 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember, like, playing up there, and I remember it being fun. I remember being like a sweaty, ridiculous good time. Is what I seem to recall about, like, upstairs in the old Pontiac. But then Dobbs, when did we first get involved? Because we were working with the promoters before. We worked with Vince and Jim at the old Doc Watson's, which I could do a whole other episode on, I guess.
Yeah. No, so I knew really, like, when it opened really early on, I did a couple solo dates there, like super early, just because I knew Vince on Facebook or something. And he mentioned they're looking for, like, they wanted at the time to do like a singer-songwriter, an acoustic act at 8, and then do the rock show at 9.
Yeah.
So I did a couple of those, which were really peculiar because the second time I did that, I literally opened for like 4 of the kind of bands that wear a lot of eyeshadow and a lot of black. And for those that don't know me, I don't wear any eyeshadow and not a whole lot of black. So it was kind of a weird opening spot. But there were, like, the first time particularly, I remember being really cool. There was not a lot of people there, but the ones that were really into the room and really into the idea of what was happening. And that was actually kind of nice. And I opened for an acoustic punk band whose bass player later recorded an EP for me. So
we probably first played there in, like,
I want to say late 2011. 2011. It was 2011 or 12. Because they opened up, I think, in like January 2011, something like that.
Yeah. Or when they reopened up. Well, no, they reopened up in like 2010.
Yeah, but like late in the year, I think.
Yeah. Do a whole thing on just remembering when we first played there.
Yeah. The fact checking of the time frame could be funny, but that first show was January 20th, 2011. That was a me solo show. So there's that.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that we did any of us in my little conglomerate of people did anything at Dobbs. It was January 2011.
Yeah.
The band, I think, didn't. That was right when we were sort of changing over from the Sobercast to the Way Home. So I don't think we got in. I kind of want to say our first show there was like the year later, opening for the Discount Heroes, their record release.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, maybe either them or opening for Rachel Shane. No, that was later. You're right.
That was later, yeah.
No, I do remember opening for Frank and Ron's band.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I was opening for Frank and Ron.
Yeah. I think it was the first time I'd ever been in there, too. It was weird. When they closed the Pontiac and they tried to have, like, the downstairs be a restaurant and then, like, the upstairs was a music room. And whatever band played, like, the last gig at the Pontiac, I think their name stayed up on the marquee for, like, 4 freaking years or something like that.
I remember that, yeah. It was... I don't remember who the band was.
You think I should at this point, but... I guess the big thing, because a lot of people are really bummed and a lot of people don't seem to give a shit. And a lot of people, when a venue goes down... You can say whatever the fuck you want because it's not really a person. So
yeah, it's a thing. It has no, So I think there's some degree of people just doing internet rage because internet rage is fun.
Well, I mean, because you can be anonymous despite the fact that you're not anonymous, but whatever.
Yeah. But no, it was a room that I won't say I always had conflicted feelings about, but definitely in the last couple of years I was in Philly, I had very conflicted feelings about that place. What I felt like from my perspective in the beginning, those first few years, was the ownership saying, okay, we're going to support the venue and let the promoters do the music.
Let them do their thing. And if
we're going to get these guys in who've worked the Grape Room, who've worked Doc Watson's, who've worked all these other rooms, and just say, like, okay, make us money. Like, bring bands in and promote shows and do a good job. And Jim and Vince are always, they're always stand-up people.
Yeah.
Those two dudes I've always felt give a really fair shake to everybody. And considering that I don't at all do the kind of music that either of them are really into.
Yeah.
They're definitely more into sort of a harder rock thing, and
an almost metal, like just with some metal tendencies. Just a harder, more masculine, more aggressive rock. Yeah,
I'm doing my little folk songs with my acoustic guitar and whatnot. Yeah. And one thing I always liked about Vince, and so it's a lot longer, but also liked about Jim, is that the two of them really just respect talent and they respect quality,
and they respect professionalism too. Yeah.
Yeah, when it's not their kind of thing, it's still like, okay, well, this is not the kind of thing I'd listen to at home necessarily, but you know what, this band is good. They bring a good energy to it, they've rehearsed, they've got their shit together, so we'll let them put a bill together, or we'll put them on a bill with some other bands that we think are in the same kind of vein. And they're not always right, but at least there was the concept that, like, they were aware of who they were booking. Obviously, my weird solo show opening for the Eyeliner Band was... kind of a work in progress there, but as far as like booking bands on bills, and I felt like the staff was all at that time really well sort of attuned to that. They had a stage manager backstage keeping things running. They had the sound guy. They had everything was sort of attuned to just like, okay, what kind of show is it tonight? Does it matter? Not really. Are the band's good? Let's do this. Cool.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like over the time that venue was running, and particularly after it changed hands again, I felt that it became more and more about, are you doing what we want to hear?
Yeah.
Which is fine on some level, because that's,
well, that's an owner's prerogative. That's a venue's prerogative right there to book or not book whatever kind of music they want to hear in their venue. But
yeah, well, the problem was they were still booking all kinds of stuff. They just weren't liking any of it.
I thought the curation went completely downhill after Double V stopped booking in there, because Double V, they were good curators.
Yeah,
there were other clubs I think curated better than they did, but they were trying to fill like 5 nights a week of music, 2 floors. Like, at some point you got to throw your hands in the air and just be like, is that a band? Good. Tell them to come over here. Like,
yeah, we've got to fill up 8 spots of music a night.
Yeah.
For 6 days a week. That's a ton of work to do, and there's only so many bands in the area that can. And like, it's a big room too. That downstairs room's a 200 cap room.
Yeah.
Which is not a big room, quote unquote.
Well,
but
200.
Certainly,
most bands can't draw 200, so.
Yeah, for a primarily local band venue, 200 cap is substantial.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of which, of its location too, because it sat there on South Street, and there was definitely a period of time in like 2010, 2011 where it was the last rock and roll venue on South Street. It was the not counting the TLA, because the TLA was a major corporate owned venue for larger national touring acts. They were the last, if I think real hard, I think they were the last rock and roll venue on South Street at all. And I always appreciated that of them, that like, whether I liked how we dealt with them or whether I even liked most of the bands that they had on, I was just like, they're the last bastion of grimy, almost punk rock, even though it wasn't really punk rock, but like just a grimy, more street level rock music.
Yeah.
And now that's gone too, but South Street, that's not what South Street's about anymore.
Yeah, it kind of hasn't been for a long time.
Well, no.
But I mean, there was still like, Lickety Split was still doing stuff there, and Woolly Mammoth and stuff. Those were small, like those were just almost DIY venues.
Well, yeah, especially Woolly Mammoth.
Yeah. But even Lickety Split, I mean, Lickety Split could have been a really nice acoustic room, because just the size of it and the size of the PA they wanted in there. But
they just kept putting bands in there.
Full bands in there. It was ridiculous.
I definitely remember trying to like move around Nick. while we were up there on stage. But I mean, like, and as I've said to other people that I'm working with on this, is that like this is not by any means a starry-eyed nostalgia fest, but it's also, I'm not trying to turn into a bitch session either. Like, obviously, as musicians, and you and I freaking grinded it out in the Philadelphia scene in our way for a long time.
Yeah,
you're going to be jaded about certain things that like other people are going to be like, why the fuck do you care about that? And when you think about it, you're just like, yeah, I don't know why I care about that. But
yeah, but the thing is, I come neither to praise nor to bury it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I felt like there was a couple of years there, like 2011, 2012, maybe even early 2013, when like the combination of DVT booking kind of pretty diverse shows in there, and John Fay's open mic being what it was, and the staff being just really supportive of music in general, I felt like there was actually kind of a sort of actual scene that I felt good about.
Yeah, because we would see our friends play there, and we would play there.
Yeah, you'd go there and you'd see Venice play, and you'd go backstage and hang out with them, and it was like, and part of this was kind of just there was an element of you know, badass godfatherness that you get to, like, because they know you there, you get to walk in and not pay the cover, you get to walk in and go backstage without anyone questioning you about things.
Yeah.
So you get to feel kind of like you're, you know, a big deal, which is always fun when you're not actually a big deal at all. But like, I really felt like there was a number of musicians, a number of bands, a number of you know, the crew there and the bar staff, and kind of everybody was on the same page and saying, like, I would go there and I would see bands who I would never have checked out if they weren't on a bill with other bands I liked, and I'd be able to, like, be hanging out in the green room talking to them, and I'm hanging out backstage and you know, restringing a guitar for someone when their string broke mid-set, you know, just like, I'm there, I've got a spare set of hands, I'll tune that for you, whatever, like, you know, for that short time, and I imagine they can't have been making any money, or else the owners wouldn't have sold out
usually,
of it. But
usually when the community is really good and everyone feels like they belong there, nobody's making any money at all on that. So at the time, too, for a band at that level, like a band that on a Friday night could draw 50 to 60, you know, that was your room. Like, that was where you went. There, unless you wanted to go to a DIY space in South Philly or West Philly, like, that was your room, for better and for worse. And I think you're absolutely right. For a couple of years there, there was just a little magic about it, a little lightning in the bottle, a little serendipity about everything, where you just had the right mix of bookers and sound and talent.
Yeah, it was a little better put together than Connie's, which I think sort of surpassed it on that level a year or two later. You know, but I feel like Connie's didn't really become kind of second home for me until 2012, 2013.
Yeah, when there was when you stopped going to Dobbs.
Well, I mean, I think there was a time when I was doing both. There was a brief, maybe 6 or 8 months, when I felt like both were really equally welcoming in different ways. But then I feel like Dobbs pushed away more and Connie's opened up more.
Yeah. I don't know. There was a lot of other factors going on right there that we had absolutely nothing to do with.
It's not that I felt but I feel like the ownership changed and the vibe changed to the degree that even the people who were still there from before had a different focus because they were being treated differently, and they were like, you know, the bar staff wasn't happy with the owners either, or they were, or whatever. And so, like, there's a very different, you know, you just didn't feel as welcome in a weird kind of a way, where it wasn't that anyone was not nice to you or whatever, but there wasn't that same sense of community there. And maybe we aged out of it. Maybe it's purely that, and that would have happened even if the bar hadn't closed, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I do feel like there was a change there, and it just didn't feel it just felt sleazier.
No, that's an accurate way to talk about this. You're helping me shape what is probably going to be the title of this episode, because I've been trying to figure out what to call it. Because, as I said to other people, like, this is not just a trip down nostalgia lane where we talk about, man, wasn't it great when we played that show and we all got drunk? Like, I mean, I could tell stories with people like that for hours and nobody would want to hear them.
Right.
And it's also not a, man, fuck that place, it was weird, this guy did this, one time I didn't get paid right, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. The other stories that you get in any venue, it's not simply specific to Dobbs, and that's not why the place closes. But I think that in the wake of a couple of venues kind of either bowing out or closing entirely, I mean, take the North Star Bar, which isn't closing, but they're bowing out of the live music game, And that's got whole other connotations, and there's whole other sets of reasons for them doing that. That we don't need to get into. That's another show sometime. But
I have whole different feelings on that room. So.
Well, no, me too, because of reasons like that's why do you like some people and not other people? Like that's kind of what that is right there. I remember where I'm going with this. I feel like this is sort of a eulogy, but it's kind of eulogy that you would want to like. This is the barroom eulogy of Dobbs. This is not the eulogy that you give in the funeral home in front of family and friends and loved ones. This is the eulogy that everyone who had a different kind of experience with it, particularly musicians and bookers and things like that. This is the eulogy that you all tell each other when you sit down after the funeral and be like, yeah, it's going to be sad, but also it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we have a positive way to go on this. I think it's kind of a.
I think you just edit one of the fun stories from the middle to the
just
end.
Just put it at the end.
It's like repeating the first verse of the whole Teddy song at the end of the song.
And everything back when everything was okay.
Brings it all back around.
Wait till it comes back around on the guitar.
We'll sing some more about townies. It'll be fun.
Cool. Well, that's good. That was pretty much everything that I wanted.
Excellent.
Out of you right there. I don't know if I'm going to end with you either. I think I'm just going to fade and then go into the next one. Yeah. I'm still kind of figuring out how I'm going to put this together. We'll be together till the end of time. 25 Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, James, for kind of closing us out there. I always know I can have a super honest conversation with him about pretty much any topic, and we're both going to say exactly what we feel in each other's presence. Anyway, thanks to all the guests. Thanks to Jason Vertibello. Thanks to Ron Bauman. Thanks to Jeremy Hebel. Thanks again to James Hearn. Like I said before, there were a couple others I wanted to get with. Didn't happen this time around, but I think we had a pretty good representation there of people talking about the Legendary Dobbs, the high times, some of the lower aspects. Like I said, I wasn't looking to kick anyone while they were down, but I definitely wanted to have an honest conversation about what it is to interact with a music venue, what it is to, try and run a music venue, all those things. But anyway, before I go here on 25 O'Clock, I want to remind you once again to go to 25o'clockpod.com for... Yeah, just go there. You're going to want to go there. Everyone's there. Go there and find everyone. They're all there. But before I go, I want to list off the following things right here. These are all the small venues that still exist in Philadelphia, and they are Connie's Rick Rack, Bourbon and Branch, Boot and Saddle, Milk Boy Philly, the Medusa Lounge, Dawson Street Pub up in Manayunk, The Fire, Johnny Brenda's, Kung Fu Necktie, Underground Arts, Ortlieb's, Chris's Jazz Cafe, Silk City, and upstairs the World Cafe. And I'm probably forgetting a few in there too. So while it is sad that Legendary Dobbs has closed its doors, it's definitely part of the Philadelphia music history, definitely part of the Philadelphia music scene. I think I just listed 14 names right there, 14 places that if you do care about seeing music in small venues, if you do care about supporting regional bands, local bands, small touring bands kind of coming through for the first time, those are all places that you can check out. I'm going to put that list up on the website at 25o'clockpod.com as well. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining me for this episode. I wanted to try something different. Like I said, this is a bit of a deviation, so I hope you enjoyed it. Check me out in 2 weeks. We're going back to the regular format. Interview guests and all that. So for 25 o'clock, my name is Dan Drago. Thanks for hanging out. Take care of yourselves.